The Honourable Christopher.
Mr. Speaker, that was the most interesting address. I find it very difficult to believe that I'm standing in this House following a Member of Parliament having made a speech like that in opposition to what is a fundamental reform of Māori land law. And I'm very pleased to stand here today and express my admiration for the Minister and the phenomenal work he's done on what is a fundamental reform of Māori land law. It's incredible to have to say this in this place, but there have been more than 180 statutes relating to Māori land over the last 162 years. 180 statutes over the last 162 years. And that volume of legislation unfortunately reflects a tendency to tinker with this important issue rather than deal with comprehensive reform. The time for comprehensive reform is now, and this minister has had the courage and the determination and the intellect to pursue the issue. And let me say this to Meka Whaitiri and to members of the Labour Party: we are doing exactly what the Labour Party said they would do if they had been re-elected in 2008. Their policy was in 2008 was this: helping Māori realise the economic potential of Māori land by reviewing the Ture Whenua Māori Act. And then in 2011, the same Labour Party said the most effective way to ensure the well-being of Māori is to grow the position of Māori in the economy. Agreed. Māori are no longer passive bystanders in the New Zealand economy. They're active participants. Agreed. Estimates of the size of the Māori economy range from 16 billion to 25 billion. The challenge for Labour is to grow this figure for the benefit of Māori. And then they propose Labour will review Te Ture Whenua land legislation to simplify the development options for multiply owned land. So what's happened that's caused Meka Whaitiri to have some kind of trip on the way to Damascus-type conversion to mindless and spiteful opposition? Because this is exactly what Labour would have done had they won a further term in office in 2008. And I take very strong exception to the comments made by Meka Whaitiri about process. The chronology matters, and so I'll tell the House something about the chronology. It was the late, great Api Mahuika who spoke to me about these issues between 2007 and beyond, up till 2011, about the opportunities for developing land governed by Te Ture Whenua. And so when I became the Associate Minister of Māori Affairs to Peter Sharples, I got together a group of experts to look at the particular issue. Toko Kapia from Ngāti Apa, Mātānaku Mahuika from Ngāti Porou, Dion Tuta from Ngāti Mutunga, and I particularly asked Dame Patsy Reddy if she would look at it because she'd come across the issue in the course of working for me as a treaty negotiator. And everyone acknowledged there were issues that needed to be addressed, and they went around the country and had many hui and came up with a report. That report was consulted on. A further consultation was undertaken throughout 2013, 2014, and in 2015 I took the most unusual step as Attorney General of allowing an exposure draft to be released. And the exposure draft was the subject of consultation, and then there were numerous other exposure drafts, not one exposure draft, but a number of exposure drafts. There has been a glut of consultation on this issue. People have been consulted, and complaints about process are pathetic and are wrong. And so and I say this to the New Zealand First member who intimated that he would be opposing the legislation at this stage, whatever that means, lazy approach to analysing the legislation. I say this, that it was his deputy leader who took me around the Wairarapa, pointing out Urupa, to which it was impossible to get access, pointing out to me areas on the coastline of the Wairarapa where there had been cases to the Māori Land Court and there had been delays and expense and the issues of landlocked land. And I said to him, these are issues which need to be addressed. And so we are biting the bullet and we're not tinkering with the legislation and providing yet another amendment. We're looking fundamentally at the legislation, and at the very heart of it is the importance of land. I resent being told that this is some kind of Jesuitical plan to relieve Māori of their land. For 7.5 years, as the Minister for Treaty Negotiations, I've returned more land to Māori than any other minister, because I'm utterly committed to the issue of restoring iwi to their rightful place and the preservation of land and respect for land, which culminated in the 1975 Māori Land March, is a fundamental issue. And I've done a lot in the far north, far more than that member's ever done. Very happy to talk about things, but in this place, you're judged not by fancy talk, you're judged by actions. Oh, we'll get there with Ngāti Kahu. We will get there, and we'll even get there with Ngāpuhi, because we're utterly determined to succeed, and we're not going to be a sideline Sam simply criticising. We're actually involved in changing people's opportunities and improving the lot of iwi, so that's what this issue is about. And to suggest that somehow we are interested in undermining the whenua is simply ridiculous. What we are wanting to do is provide mechanisms for better development of land. That's at the heart of this reform. There's another suggestion that somehow we're wanting to undermine the court, which is nonsense. We are wanting to make the court more effective and relieve the court of a whole lot of administrative burdens that could be done through a Māori Land Service, and leaving the courts to focus on the judicial function. Now, there's nothing novel in any of this. Exactly those reforms occurred in the High Court in the early 1980s, relieving the judges of the need to be responsible for every procedural step, letting them concentrate on judicial determination of disputes once they reach the courts, and leaving the parties to sort out a lot of things for themselves. So, Mr. Speaker, the current Te Ture Whenua Act was important because of its focus on land retention. It served an important purpose, but its over-reliance on oversight by the court has perpetuated a negative and unjustified perception that those Māori landowners who become actively involved with their land somehow can't be trusted. And it's never addressed the fundamental policy issue that the law should recognise and provide for the mana and the tino rangatiratanga of Māori in relation to their lands, rather than undermine those concepts. So this is a very important reform. I'm pleased that it hopefully, assuming the votes go through, goes to the Māori Affairs Committee, because these are very important issues that we need to debate. This reform has been a long time coming. The process has been impeccable. There has been a glut of consultation. There are major issues that need to be looked at for the benefit of the Māori economy. And I must say I'm so very disappointed that whereas in 2008 and 2011 Labor was prepared to address this issue, the Labor Party in 2016 is adopting what can only be called a spiteful and pitiful approach to this legislation.
Mr. Speaker.